Welcome to State of Tech. My name's Jared, and I have some settings for you to change on your iPhone when you get a new iPhone 7 or any phone that's running the latest version of iOS are going to have the majority of these settings. So I just got a new iPhone 7. I went without an iPhone for a few months and decided I needed one back in my life. So I found myself setting up a new phone, which is fun. I don't know, a lot of people don't like to do that, but for some reason, I really enjoy setting up phones. It's just fun when it's my phone because I like to customize them and set them up the way that works best for me. So I have some settings that, come default that I like to change on the iPhone because it drives me nuts. The main one is, when you set up your phone, you activate your fingerprint scanner, so that when you can unlock using the fingerprint scanner. But the way to unlock your phone is you have to rest your finger on the fingerprint scanner and then push down the button, the home button. And to me, that's super annoying to have to do that because I still remember the days of having a physical button that you have to push down. And so I'm not used to having to do that now that the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus has kind of the electronic button. It's not a real button. It's just a sensor that has the feel of a button. You have to have that extra tap, which I think is pretty annoying. So if you go into settings, and your settings screen should look like this. And if you go into general and then accessibility and scroll down quite a ways to home button, there is a rest finger to open slider, a little toggle switch there. Toggle that to on, and now when you just rest your finger on the home button, it's gonna unlock and take you to your home screen, which is exactly what I wanna have happen. I don't spend any time on my lock screen. Now you may not want this if you want your lock screen to pop up so that you can look at your lock screen widgets and different stuff like that. You may want that extra step, but for me, I just want it to unlock and go straight to my home screen and just cut and dry, really simple. While we are here under the accessibility, I want to scroll up to an option that has to do with the motion and the wallpaper in the background of your phone. Now, some of you might like that, when you kind of rotate your phone, the image kind of rotates a little bit, kind of gives it almost a 3D feel. And to me, I didn't really like that because I typically have a picture of my kids or something like that. I just wanted it to be a still image. And there are other aspects of the phone too, in which there's some motion when you're in multitask and just you could shut it off is basically what I'm getting at. And so for those of you that don't like that, underneath the accessibility tab here is a option called reduce motion. And if you toggle reduce motion, it's gonna reduce the motion and 3D effect that the phone has in those situations. It's not going to affect really anything else other than just, when you're rotating your phone or moving your phone around and the background's moving. I don't know, I just didn't like that. That's a personal preference, obviously. So if you like that, go ahead and leave it enabled. If you don't, go ahead and just reduce all motion. Now there's another way to do this that only affects the background, your wallpaper. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that toggle back to where it was, and I'm gonna go back to my main settings screen and scroll down to wallpaper. Now, when you choose your wallpaper, and so I've got my wallpaper pulled up here, it's kind of hard to see down here, but it says still or perspective. Now, if I choose still, my image is going to remain still. There's not going to be really any motion to it there. But if I add perspective, you'll see it kind of zooms in a little bit on my image, and that's so that it has enough image left over so that when you move your phone around, you have that. So let's take a look at the two different options. I'm going to set, let me go back in here, and I'm just going to zoom in on my image and set it so that we can see what the background looks like with still. So here's still, you can see there isn't any movement going on. And then if I go back and choose my wallpaper again and choose perspective and then hit set, it changed it to still. That's one thing you can't do is zoom back in on your image. It will change it to still. So now that I have it set to perspective, you can see there is a little bit of motion there, and it's kind of hard to see in this video. I think the perspective isn't transferring over to the video, but you definitely can make that change and adjustment there so that you have that perspective if you want it. But for me, I typically just go and shut off that option and reduce motion by going into accessibility, choosing reduce motion, toggling that on, and just being done with it altogether. So there's another feature of Siri that potentially could be a little scary, and this is an option. I think maybe it's more important for those of you that want to maintain privacy when your phone is locked. One of the things that Siri does is it allows you to unlock Siri from the lock screen. Now, if your phone's unlocked and you have the phone in your hand and you're looking at the phone and you initiate Siri, that's totally fine. I mean, you have your phone in your hand. But if your phone is set down and the lock screen is on, somebody could pick up your phone and activate Siri and ask it questions. And it's gonna be hard. It's hard for me to show that to you because I'm screen recording my phone right now. But try this. If you haven't changed this setting, turn the screen off on your phone, activate Siri, ask it who you are. So say, hey Siri, who am I? Now my phone's trying to do it. And then also ask it, who do I call the most? And where is my car parked? And there's some other things that you can ask Siri that it will answer on your lock screen. And somebody doesn't have to have your fingerprint, somebody doesn't have to know your passcode in order to have that pop up on the screen. And so that may be kind of a security issue. For those of you with kids who have iPhones, I highly recommend turning that off because all it takes is a savvy, creepy person to grab the phone real quick, initiate Siri. They then have your child's phone number. They have the phone number of the person that they call the most, which may be you or another friend of theirs. And so there's just things that I think are better turned off. As a man, I don't necessarily think it's that big of a deal for me because I'm not as worried about my privacy as maybe I am my wife and my kids. So I might, be a little bit more precautious because of that. But definitely, if you are wanting to maintain control over that information that Siri will give you while your screen is locked behind a passcode and behind a fingerprint scan, I would recommend turning that off. And the way that you do that is you go into settings, and we need to be on our general screen here. You can scroll down to Siri, and then you can turn off some of these options like access when locked. If you turn access when locked, Siri will not respond at all when your phone is locked, which that's just kind of the kill switch there. It shuts off Siri altogether when your phone screen is off. Now, this is going to affect you from doing things in your car while your screen is off and trying to do them hands-free with Siri, but it's kind of a trade-off between having that privacy or having Siri readily available. And there's no real way to go in there and customize Siri to the point where it's not giving certain information like on the lock screen per se. You either kind of have to allow it on the lock screen or not, and it's kind of a bummer. All right, so for those of us who use the camera a lot on our phones, which I would imagine is a lot of you, we go into our camera and maybe we make some settings changes. Maybe we use the square camera more than we use the standard camera. And maybe we use a filter. We apply a filter automatically when we take a picture as opposed to doing it in post-production after we take the picture. Now the bummer is by default, every time you go back into the camera, it doesn't remember those settings. It sends you back to the regular camera. You have to choose your filter all over again. But if you go under settings and scroll down to photo and camera, and then scroll down to preserve settings, there are 3 options here. You can have it remember your camera mode, so your phone always stays in the camera mode that you last used, which is cool if you use something other than the default standard camera most often. You can also have it remember the last photo filter instead of none, which is what it will always default back to. And then you can also have it preserve live photo settings rather than automatically resetting live photo to be turned on. I have this enabled, and by default this is enabled, so that way if you're not wanting to take live photos, if you want to turn off live photos because you just don't need them and there isn't really much of a use for live photos still, even many months after, year and a half after that feature has been released, you can enable that setting to be remembered as well so that you can turn it off. If you don't turn this on, then it will automatically just re-enable live photos for you, which is kind of annoying. And I definitely wouldn't want that either. So for those of you who are who find yourself in maybe Wi-Fi areas that aren't necessarily super strong, or maybe your Wi-Fi in your home doesn't reach completely to the other side of your home. So sometimes you're in that back bedroom or somewhere and the Wi-Fi just isn't that strong. Wi-Fi Assist is an option on your phone that will switch your phone out of Wi-Fi and into data and start to use your data when Wi-Fi isn't strong enough. Now, this will if it's enabled, and it is enabled by default, this will happen all the time. So even if you are in the back of your house or you're somewhere, you're streaming music or you're streaming something, and your Wi-Fi starts to get a little weak, it will automatically switch over to your data and start to use data. Now, if you have a lot of data or an unlimited data plan, that's totally fine, not a problem at all. But if you're on a data plan and you every month get kind of close to running out of data, you might want to look at turning this off. And you do that by going under Settings, going to Cellular, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there's this option called Wi-Fi Assist. And it actually shows you how much of that data has been used right there. And it says automatically use cellular data when Wi-Fi connectivity is poor. And that is a thing that could eat all of your data up if you find yourself often in areas where you think you're connected to Wi-Fi, but maybe the Wi-Fi is poor on the X end of the house or office or wherever you are, and your phone ends up switching out of that. So you feel like you're connected to Wi-Fi and not using your data plan, but in reality you are. So a lot of times I just turn this off because I don't want to run out of data. I don't want my data to go over. I know that AT&T sends me a message and lets me know, but I just don't want that to happen. I want to be connected to Wi-Fi. If my Wi-Fi starts to get a little weak, then I deal with it. I move closer to the router or something, I make a change. I would rather do that than end up eating up all of my data, and that's kind of a bummer. I definitely don't want my data to be used up before the end of the month because I share it with family too. All right, so Do Not Disturb is a super important feature for me when I'm ready to go to bed. I don't want my phone to get notifications, my screen to flicker on all night. If I forget to turn the ringer off, I don't want the ringer beeping and just making noises. It's super annoying if you don't have Do Not Disturb turned on. This may be a pretty simple one for many of you because it's a very well-known feature, but I set it to schedule. So right now I had it set to manual because I don't want notifications popping up while I'm trying to do this video. But I'll go into schedule and I'll change my scheduled notifications and my quiet hours from say 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then every night at 10 p.m. Do Not Disturb is going to go on, and at 6 a.m. it's going to turn off. Now down at the very bottom it says silence always or silence only when phone is locked. Now, I have it set to always right now so that even when I'm in here with my screen on, I don't have notifications popping up. But typically, I leave mine set to only while phone is locked because my phone is on my nightstand, it's locked, I'm not using it. It can mute notifications and everything then. But if it's 10:30 at night, it's already gone into quiet mode, Do Not Disturb, but I'm using my phone because I'm still awake. I want those notifications to come, those text messages to show up, those phone calls to ring through. So I would suggest choosing only while iPhone is locked as an option there. And I only bring that up because I have it set different so that I don't have notifications popping up while I'm trying to make this video. All right, so Do Not Disturb, definitely a cool one. Now, we've all been using Touch ID to unlock our phone, and that's great and all, but adding more fingerprints to that is what really makes it sing, because sometimes most of the time I'm using my phone in my right hand, but there are times when I'm doing something and I'm using my phone in my left hand. I might be writing something. I need my right hand for that because I'm right-handed. I may have something else in my hand holding one of my kids or whatever, and so I use my left hand. Now, if I don't have my fingerprint for my left hand in my phone, I'm not going to be able to unlock my phone. It's going to be super annoying. I'm going to have to try and tap out a passcode and, just not using the full functionality of my phone. So you can see here I have 2 fingerprints scanned. I've got both these thumbs scanned in there, and I typically go and scan my index finger as well, because when my phone is sitting on a countertop, it's definitely a lot easier to fingerprint scan an index finger than it is your thumb. So I'm going to go through and add in my index finger and just kind of tap around and make sure I get all angles of the finger and hit continue. So now when my phone is sitting on the table, I don't have to like cock my arm over and bend my wrist and try and thumbprint. I can just simply rest with my finger, my index finger, and unlock the phone. So I typically put my thumbs in there and my 2 index fingers into the fingerprint scanner for the ability to unlock everything. I feel that that's super important, and I always have it set to require passcode immediately. So when I lock my phone, fingerprint scan opens it automatically. If somebody else was to try and unlock my phone with their finger that is not in my fingerprint scanner, it wouldn't work, even if it was only seconds after I hit the lock button on the side of my phone. You'll notice down here that allow access when locked, Siri is toggled off. This is another area where you can toggle off Siri, allowing access to Siri when the phone is locked. And you'll see there are other things here that you can turn off as well. So if you use your calendar a lot for your today view, you don't want somebody to be able to access your schedule. These are other things that you may want to disable, because these are things that are accessible when your phone screen is locked, meaning somebody doesn't have to know your passcode. It doesn't have to have your fingerprint available either. These are things that you want to make sure you have turned on or turned off, depending on how much privacy you want on your phone. So definitely pretty important. So the last thing that I will mention is night shift. For those of you who like to lay in bed or in the dark using your phone, night shift was added to the phone to allow just something much more easier on your eyes. If you've ever gotten a headache from using your phone in the dark, laying there in bed, scrolling your phone late at night, giving yourself a migraine, it definitely helps. So if you go to display and brightness and then choose night shift, you can actually schedule night shift to automatically enable, which is good because now you don't have to remember to turn it on every time. If you know you're in bed around 10 o'clock, you can enable night shift to be the same as your do not disturb. So, maybe I'll have it turn off at 6 a.m. and go on at 10 p.m. just like I normally would have my quiet mode go on. And then I can also slide my color temperature over to less warm or more warm and kind of dial it in, because the color temperature that it changes the screen to might be a little distracting because it's such a huge shift. So you can manually slide that shift and decide how you want it to go. So night shift is definitely a neat feature to have. It's going to be easier on your eyes. And they say that it's going to be easier for you to fall asleep after using your phone because of the colors. I really think it has more to do with the fact that you're staring at your phone and you're keeping your brain active. And when you put your phone down, it's hard to go to sleep because your brain's active. But some people believe it's color. I don't know, whatever. So anyways, those are some settings that I change every time I get a new iPhone, which typically is every year. Yes, when you sync over to a new phone, some of those settings can sync over too. If you back everything up to iCloud, that's definitely something that is important to do. And then when you get a new phone, if you restore everything, a lot of those settings will come re-enabled. So these are just settings that I change, and I happen to decide to set up this phone as a brand new phone. So if you're interested in learning about how to enable iCloud backup, which backs up all your settings and a variety of other things, we have a video on that. I'll make sure to link to it in the description below so that you can check out kind of backing up using iCloud, and then we also have kind of an iCloud backup versus iTunes backup as well, for those of you who are wondering what the difference is between them. So more stuff coming soon, so make sure you subscribe to our channel here on State of Tech by clicking that subscribe button. Click the thumbs up if you found this video useful, and share it with someone else, because that's definitely helps us out, and it helps everybody learn how to use their phone and understand more of what they can do with their phone. So thanks so much for checking out this video. We hope to see you back here soon. Take care.